You may walk through the streets of Welland and see these iconic French establishments you grew up with, and never think twice about the rich history behind them. The history of the French community of Welland goes back many generations and shows the amazing impact that this mass migration had on the development of the great city we know and love. It shows how families traveled here in search of a better life for themselves and their families. Through cooperation and community, the people of Welland were able to build a thriving community and valuable institutions that enabled people to build meaningful relationships with their neighbors and pursue their dreams of a better life, despite the obstacles that may have been in their path. This is a story of hard work, community, and perseverance, and it all begins in 1829. The Welland Canal had just opened, and thriving industries were establishing themselves primarily on the east side of the canal, a place that was later named Frenchtown. And for a while, the Francophone population stayed stable, until in 1912, Welland's industrial business continued to increase with the construction of the Empire Cotton Mill. There was just one problem. They couldn't find enough workers. The economic boom from the war drove many away from factory work, and the Empire Cotton Mill was left with a serious dilemma: a large demand for workers, but simply not enough people to fill these positions. Luckily, a neighboring province held the solution: Quebec. Specifically, a small town neighboring Quebec City called Montmorency, from where the Empire Cotton Mill recruited Francophones to Welland, and seemingly overnight, the Francophone population doubled. And just as quickly, the word traveled across Quebec: Welland was a land of opportunity. Until the 19th century, there wasn't a French-language church in Welland, and most Francophones joined an English-speaking church named St. Mary Roman Catholic Church. However, in 1920, a new church was established in order to serve the ever-growing Francophone population, Sacred Heart Parish, which was catered entirely to Francophones. At first, the French church services were run by Father Tanguay out of the basement of the already existing St. Mary Roman Catholic Church. The church eventually moved into their own building and became the community hub for all French-speaking Welland residents. From religious gatherings to community events, everything happened at Sacred Heart Parish. But it became obvious that the original building wasn't going to suffice, and the church soon thereafter moved to nearby military barracks. The French population was thriving in Welland, but unfortunately, due to severe limits on public schooling in French, their access to French education in public schools was severely limited. This was a major concern in the French community. Due to this, many families often opted to send their children to the parish's private school. Over time, legislation was put in place that addressed the Francophone concerns over education, creating options for French families to educate their children in the public school system in French. However, also in 1930, the Great Depression swept the country, and Welland was hit particularly hard, leaving many Francophone families without jobs and without ways to support their families. This all changed during the Second World War, when the economic boom driven largely by the war brought Welland's industry sector back in full swing. Most job opportunities came from companies in the thriving steel industry, such as Atlas Steel, Page Heresy Tubes, and Union Carbide. After the Second World War, soldiers were coming back home to their growing families in a thriving economy. The baby boom was underway, and due to the financial abundance of the time, more and more families were able to become homeowners. In addition to this, in 1947, the Francophone community established a credit union in the basement of the church named Caisse Populaire de Welland, and a year later, in 1948, it got its own building down the street. Over time, the Caisse Populaire made it possible for a large percentage of parishioners to own their own homes. By 1957, the parish was a community hub for over 1,000 families, and it quickly became obvious that they needed to upgrade. By 1961, the parish gained another 225 families. With them came more opportunities for people through clubs and further improvements to French education. Whether it's the Cotton Mill Complex, the Banque de National, or the Community and Health Center, it's clear that the Francophone community is an integral part of Welland's heritage and Welland as it stands today. And in continuing with its heritage, Welland officially stands as a bilingual service area and continues to offer several options for high-quality French public schooling, from elementary schools such as Nouvelle Horizon French Elementary to Princess Elizabeth Public School. Every day, the Francophone community continues to live out its heritage and create new stories for generations to come. Just like the original families who came to Welland in search of opportunity and built their community from nothing, the same opportunity lies with you. But what rich history is left to discover? And what new opportunities have yet to be made? Well, that's up to you.